Hey friends, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Duns. We're super excited because I don't know about you, but I love fresh starts, and you're going to be watching this on Monday. And we're starting a new book of the Bible, and I really like this one. It's weird and it is awkward, and I just kind of joked with Dust about how fun it's going to be, you guys talking about it with your kids, and us too.
Yep.
But it's a good one. So we're starting the book of Hosea. And today in chapter 1, we are picking up, and I will share, if I haven't already, the Bible Project. I try to share that every time we start a new book of the Bible because it's so good and it gives us the context. It does all of our homework for us, really, of where we're picking up. But basically, what's going on, we left off in 2 Samuel, and it's been some years since then, but we could see by the end of 2 Samuel that the Israelites, the different tribes, were not getting along. They're arguing. They're not agreeing. They're not even agreeing on who should be their leader and king, which is kind of an issue. And so by the time we get to Hosea, they're divided. There's a northern kingdom of Israel and a southern kingdom. And so this is where Hosea has been called to be a prophet, and the situation that the Lord has him in with God's people, the Israelites. And so we know from what we've read in the past that when you're a prophet for the Lord, when you're a pastor for the Lord, sometimes God tells you to do weird stuff. But these prophets, God has told them to do some crazy things sometimes. Sometimes it was sign acts, sometimes it was, just pretend like that. Or sometimes it was like major life things. And that's what we see here. God in chapter 1, verse 1, tells Hosea, you know what's going to be a good idea? And obviously this is Jenny's paraphrase. Let's go marry a promiscuous woman. Let's marry a woman who is not going to be faithful to you when you marry her. When you get married, she's not only going to be with you. And so God tells Hosea to do this, and Hosea, being a godly man, obeys him. And so he marries probably the super lovely Gomer. And so that is what we see as we are starting out. Gomer, doesn't that sound pretty? As we're starting out this book. But what is super important for us to realize, and I think it's pretty clear in what chapter 1 talks about, this is not really a story just about the relationship between Hosea and Gomer. God is teaching the people of Israel, and Hosea is the lucky guy whose life gets to display this. He is teaching the people of Israel what is going on in their own relationship with God. That they are being just like Gomer in their relationship with God. And so God is doing what he does. He pursues, and he's drawing, and he's calling his people to him. And he just happens to be using this prophet, Hosea, that I kind of feel sorry for.
Yeah. So Hosea is one of the most autobiographical of all of the minor prophets. Now understand, there's two kinds of prophets in the Bible that do the writing. They're the major prophets and the minor prophets. The major prophets, they write big books. The minor prophets, they write little books. Hosea is in the middle of this group of the minor prophets because his book is tiny. But what we say is it's going to tell us more about his personal life than most any other prophet. The only other one that would get close would be Ezekiel. But this story uses Hosea's life as a symbol. Now think about it like this. Whenever we tried to explain what was going on in this passage to our kids, and so we're just going to lay it out there the way we laid it out there for them, that God tells Hosea to marry a woman knowing that she would betray him, because it's going to show everybody around what it was like for God to take care of a people who would constantly betray him. I wrote this in my notes. God used the relationship of Hosea and Gomer to illustrate the fact that Israel, the people with whom God had entered into a sacred covenant with, they had broken the faith by committing spiritual adultery by serving false gods and idols. Their actions were a betrayal, and they were hurtful to the God who loved them. If you wanted a New Testament verse to help explain what's going on in this passage, You could go to James chapter 4, verse number 4, where it says this: adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. And so Hosea is serving during various priests of the nation of the northern kingdom of Israel. And when you read his story, it starts with him, but it's about so much more than just him. For instance, look in verse 2. It says, when the Lord began to speak by Hosea, now I want you to do this, circle the word by. So when the Lord began to speak by Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, circle the word to. And just kind of out in your margins, I want you to put this. Before the Lord could speak through him, the Lord had to speak to him. So he wasn't only given a message, Hosea was supposed to be a message. Now, what was the message? The message was that God's people had betrayed him the same way that Hosea's wife had betrayed him. And listen, you get little details of this through the story, because when Hosea and Gomer get married, they have a baby. And the Bible says, the first baby, they said, so he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Well, then they talk about him. Then it says, and she conceived again and bore a daughter. And then it says, and she conceived and bore a son. Do you notice the first time it says she had a baby, it was she bore to him a son, but the next two kids, it just said she had kids? Maybe a subtle indication these were not his children. The same way the Israelites, who made a covenant with God at Mount Sinai to be his people, had now lived a life, and their life was bearing fruit that did not look like God either. These are subtle little clues. Everything is not as it should be. And so God has a plan, and it's a plan of judgment. And so when you read through this story, what it's saying is that God's planning on destroying his people. And so it even says that, well, look in verse number 4, and bring an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. So God was planning to judge his people, to destroy them, to start over. Now I want you to understand, God does let this happen, but he doesn't destroy everybody. He keeps himself a remnant, a little group that he can bring back, and he has hope for them. Because I want you to see how this chapter ends. Verses 10 and 11 they end this chapter in hope. Mm-hmm. See, a future is described in these last two verses of a flourishing Israel, of a reunited northern and southern kingdom where Israel and Judah become one nation of Israel. When they come back together, it's describing this time when they're brought back as a family. And this suggests that maybe God's plan was to allow judgment so that he could then bring blessing. Why? Because God is not cruel. He's not punishing just to punish. He disciplines his children, but he also disciplines his children for the purpose of helping them grow out of some of the things that are getting them in trouble in the first place. So when you read through this story, just understand, all throughout the Bible, this symbolism of adultery is used to help us understand how God sees it when his family runs off from him and chases other things. He says, it hurts me like when you commit adultery against your spouse. That's heavy. Mm-hmm. But the best part about this story for me is going to come in chapter number 3, when Hosea is sent to go find her, even after she's humiliated him. And he says, come back home and just be with me. It's beautiful. Keep reading. Understand the levels of all that's happening here. Don't be afraid of the book. And this week, walk closely with the Lord. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. Should I put on earrings?
No, we'll just do it.
Like we're married.
Yeah, PDA at the Lord's house. Oh, now you're basically kissing right there. You just a wild kiss.
Okay.
We're filming.
Where
Jax,
did my coat go?
Jax, go pick up the
Did
dog.
Bill.
Go pick up the dog and just hold him so he doesn't bark.
Look, he wants to be in.
I know, so just take him away. Hold him.
Are you sure y'all don't want?
I'm sure. Yeah, just go away. Let's do this quick.
Mama, he wants.
I can't.
Come on.
Yes.
Jax, Jax, go.
Y'all send me.
Okay.
I need a joint anyway.
Okay, we're starting.
You know, I heard
5,
that-
4,
Watermelon,
3,